Today we're going to have a little fun with a head-to-head between the two White Birch models. Welcome back to the channel for Right Time Watches here in Denver, Colorado. You all already know I'm a huge fan of the White Birch watches from Grand Seiko, and today we're going to do something fun by putting them side by side and in a little bit of a way pitting them head to head. Before we dig into all those details though, we'll invite you to subscribe to the channel so you catch all of our upcoming videos. Hibeat or spring drive? Hibeat or spring drive? It's a question I didn't think we all thought was going to plague us quite as much as it is now. Grand Seiko brought out the amazing White Birch last year, and in an incredible sequel, they gave us a beautiful spring drive model. While both definitely have their merits and their place in a collection, let's talk this through. Starting at a very high level, either watch comes from Grand Seiko, which is an incredible watchmaker, and you know that there's been a ton of time and attention that's gone into the finishing of the movement, the watch, and the dial, of course. The dial on this Hibeat model is absolutely beautiful, and the original, and it has a little bit more of a silver sheen to it. The spring drive dial has a very similar texture, but it's just a little bit more white, which fits for a White Birch watch. From a technical perspective, the Hibeat model is an incredible movement. It beats at 36,000 vibrations per hour, and yet they still have an 80-hour power reserve. But if it's power reserve that you like, this new spring drive has a 5-day power reserve and will run at impeccable accuracy. In this instance, it may come down to personal preference or to serviceability. A Hibeat movement is a purely mechanical movement, so technically may be easier to service if something ever happens to the spring drive technology down the line. We have almost an identical handset, case shape, and bracelet design. The crowns look identical, and overall, I think the specs are pretty much the same. Both of these watches have a screw-down crown. Both of these watches have a date. They have 100 meters of water resistance. Both have a sapphire crystal, and both cost $9,100 US. So how do we choose? This is when things in this hobby get very personal and somewhat theoretical. When it comes right down to it, if you're spending $9,100 US on a watch, you want this watch to make you feel something. When you put it on in the morning, you should feel nothing but joy and happiness and confidence in your decision. So for these two watches, the reality is your decision is going to come down to dial and movement. For the dial, it's a tough decision for me. The spring drive looks a little bit more like what I would imagine from a White Birch tree, but I think I'm more attracted to the dial on the Hibeat. The Hibeat movement is a more standard mechanical movement, and I think that may speak to a lot of watch collectors. But for me, I'm a huge fan of spring drive. I think one of the best parts about having a Grand Seiko timepiece is their innovation, and there's no innovation greater from them, in my opinion, than a spring drive movement. Even next to a Hibeat movement, you can tell that that spring drive is just perfectly smooth in its sweep. I also really love a strong power reserve, and for me, a 5-day power reserve is a no-brainer. Whatever decision you make, you're getting a fantastic Evolution 9 watch from Grand Seiko, and I think these are going to be their most exciting watches in the future. They're gorgeous, they have a wonderful balance to them, and obviously they're filled with incredible innovations from a movement and watchmaking perspective. So where do I land? A lot of people are not really putting their foot down and making a statement. For me, I think the answer is the spring drive. With that dial being a little bit more true to the White Birch name, and with the innovations that you get from a 5-day spring drive movement, I think this watch would be perfect for someone like me. At the end of the day, it's going to be very difficult to go wrong if you decide on either of these wristwatches. They're beautiful, they're hard to get, they're fantastic in both design and construction, and I really think that they're going to be a classic in the future. If you'd like to purchase one of these or any of our other watches, please visit us at righttime.com or give us a call. We're always happy to help. As always, thank you so much for stopping by, and we'll see you next time at Right Time.